So we are starting with a new topic, that is biodiversity and conservation. So the half part of this chapter you have already studied, that is what is a biodiversity, what are the hotspots of the biodiversity, and what are endangered and endemic species, and how India is a mega diversity nation. So all these aspects of biodiversity you have already studied. Okay. In today's lecture, we are going to see, or the main focus is on, what are the threats to biodiversity, and how we can conserve this biodiversity. Indirectly, how can we protect different species which are living in the ecosystem. Okay. And what are the different values of biodiversity and ecosystem. Okay. So the first point is threats to biodiversity, which the points, or the what are the threats to biodiversity. Okay, so there are different threats which are enlisted in your syllabus. There is habitat loss, poaching of wildlife, man wildlife conflict, biological invasion, and conservation of biodiversity, in situ and ex situ conservation of biodiversity. And in the next point you are going to see what are the different services are provided by biodiversity and ecosystem. So we'll start with the first topic, that is threats to biodiversity. So what are the threats to biodiversity? So maybe some threats are because of or are natural, and some are anthropogenic threats, that means because of the human activities. So if we observe the natural threats, it is maybe because of natural disaster. So this may be in the form of drought, fire, tsunami, or landslides, or maybe intrinsic factor, that means which are factor inherited to species, like a limited dispersal, narrow niche, that means species is not able to spread or move in a large area. Okay, that is a dispersal. And narrow niche is the area where our organism is living and performing its functional role, that means feeding activity. Okay, that is called as a niche. Okay, so maybe some factor which are inherited by species. Okay, that is inherited means getting from their uh, the generation per generation, okay, or the previous generation. So these are the intrinsic factor or the natural disaster, are natural threats. Now what are anthropogenic causes? First one is habitat loss. So there are certain factors, or there are certain reasons which are responsible for habitat loss. So urbanization, agriculture, human disturbances, extraction, infrastructure, development, and fragmentation. So these are the reasons are responsible for habitat loss. Now invasion of alien species, that means which is not living in a particular area. So what are the reason for this? That is competitors, predators, hybridizers, pathogens, and habitat effect. Okay, these are the reasons, or because of these factors the alien species or the invasive species can be observed in a particular habitat or the biodiversity, and that is a cause of or that is a biodiversity threat. Now over exploitation, maybe by harvesting, by catching, or road killing, or by species control, or by different efforts. Okay, another important uh, cause or the threat is pollution. Okay, that is because of agriculture, urbanization, extraction, infrastructure development, human disturbances, and native species interaction, that means native competitor, predators, pathogens, prey, or symbionts, and accelerate climate change, that means the factors which are responsible for the change in the climate, and the global warming, severe weather change, or acid rain. Okay, all these are the anthropogenic threats to the biodiversity of a particular area. So out of which we are going to study the habitat loss, okay, then invasive species, and the another factor is man wildlife conflict. Okay, So first we'll see what is a habitat loss or that threat. So habitat loss is one of the biggest threat to biodiversity and the major reason for species going to extinct. Okay. So habitat generally refers to a part of the ecosystem required by particular species for food, shelter, protection and mates for reproduction. So as we know, every organism or the animal which on this earth is living in a particular habitat. So habitat is the area where animal is best fitted. That means in the particular area the organism or the animal is doing all its activity, all his or her activity, okay, or its activity, and able to survive only in the habitat. For example, if I change the habitat, the fish is living in water, okay, in water it gaining or able to feed, live, survive, reproduce, okay, even the fish is getting protection, okay. So all these factors which is required for survival and successful living are getting or are available in the aquatic habitat, that is in the water, right. If I transfer the fish into a terrestrial habitat, okay, then fish won't be able to survive. Likewise, every organism is comfortable and it is best fitted to live in its habitat. Outside the habitat, the animal won't be able to survive for longer period of time, okay, may be able to survive for shorter period of time, that is extreme cases or external exceptional cases, but every organism is best fitted for its habitat, okay. That's why the habitat loss is a major threat to the biodiversity, okay. That habitat loss means species loss, okay. So human destruction of habitat has exceptionally increased since the beginning of 20th century, okay. That is from where the major development starts or it has started. Cutting down forest for agriculture, plantation, urbanization, mining, leveling wetlands to build houses and other infrastructures, and creating dams that impact the flow of rivers, forest fires, all are examples of habitat destruction, okay. So cutting down the forest for agriculture, yes, because the nutrient rich soil is present near the forest area, okay. And as the population is increasing, to fulfill the needs of the population, mainly for the food sector, the human beings are exceeding their limit and turning or moving towards the forest area for agriculture. Plantations, okay, even though we know the plantation is good for the habitat, okay, but if the industrial area is there, okay, that plantation is not good for the habitat, okay. Urbanization, yes, we know, to settlement or the human settlement area for that or for any other factor, okay, it is responsible for the loss or the habitat loss, okay. Mining, the large area is impacted by the mining activity, and the effects of mining we have already seen, that is one of the result or the you can say impact on the biodiversity is the habitat loss, okay. That is because the mining leads to deforestation, okay, leveling wetlands to build houses, okay, that is we are indirectly disturbing the habitat, and other infrastructures, creating dams, okay, like to build an infrastructure or to create a dam, okay, where the deforestation is done or we can observe that area is under deforestation, okay. Ultimately, the loss of the species that impact the flow of rivers, okay, even the flow of rivers may impact the aquatic ecosystem, okay. Forest fire are the examples of habitat destruction. If you observe the causes, okay, or the Reasons behind the habitat loss. The major reasons are anthropogenic, that means because of the human interference, and very few are the natural activities. It has been estimated that 18 million acres of forest are destroyed each year due to various anthropogenic practices, thereby damaging the ecosystem on which many species depend. The impact is particularly severe in tropical rainforests, which hold a high percentage of the world's known species. Okay, so that's why it is important to restrict the forest area. For example, the Amazon rainforest have lost 7,50,000 square kilometers across Brazil, Peru, Colombia, Bolivia, Venezuela, Suriname, Guinea, and French Guinea. Okay. Now 7,50,000 square kilometer area is not a small area. So if you try to imagine, then you can relate how much habitat loss or deforestation is uh, done or the done in the Amazon. Okay, so that means so many species must have faced that issue, that is a habitat loss. In West Africa, 90% of the coastal rainforest has already been destroyed, while in a Congo basin. Okay, Democratic Republic Congo, that is DRC, and that equal along with the Republic of Congo. Okay, in that particular, deforestation has doubled since 1990. Okay, the Western Ghats in India has lost about 33,579 square kilometer, or we can 35.3% of the total forest over, or that is the forest cover, in the last 9 decades. Okay, so if you observe the habitat loss or the area which has faced the deforestation, okay, the area is not very small. Okay, it is in the 33,000 or in lakhs. So that means the large area is devastated because of the deforestation. Okay, and that is one of the threat to biodiversity. Now it is an alarming situation for the human beings to pay an attention on this issue. Okay, so habitat loss is not just restricted to tropical forest. The large area of temperate forest, grassland, wetland, coral reefs, which are also called as the rainforest of the sea, and marine ecosystem have been demolished for developmental activities, meeting various human needs, and have been degraded due to pollution. So as we were studying only regarding the forest, okay, but the other ecosystems are also getting impacted by these threats or the issue, that is habitat loss. So grassland, because of the overgrazing and other activities, maybe urbanization or settlement, mining and all, for this issues, or these are the causes of habitat loss in the grassland ecosystem. Say for the wetlands, coral reefs, if you study the aquatic ecosystem, coral reef is a key factor or the important factor in the ecosystem, because the fishes are dependent, or the small fishes are dependent, and the large fishes or the top level consumers are indirectly dependent on the coral reef. Okay, so it is one of the key factor which is maintaining the balance in the ecosystem. So that's why it is important to maintain the species even which are in the aquatic ecosystem. Okay, so marine ecosystem, that also been demolished for the developmental activities. So the rivers and streams, which are vital freshwater ecosystems harboring unique biodiversity, have been impacted due to habitat modification. Okay, because the animal can survive only in the habitat. So if there is a manipulation or change or destruction of the habitat, okay, that may show a great impact on the on the species. Okay, and if the species great impact on the species, that is indirectly the impact on the biodiversity. because we know that each factor is playing an important role in the ecosystem. Okay? And the total number of individuals or the organisms are present in the particular area, okay, that are called as a that is called as a biodiversity. Okay? So it is a bigger threat or the major threat to the biodiversity. Constructing dams over a river affects the water flow and modifies the habitat. Altering a flow regime can reduce the eliminate population that are adapted to seasonal changes in flow. Okay. So all these factors, that is even a manipulation or even a slight change in the river flow or the river water flow, are causing or giving stress to organisms or animals which are living in a particular ecosystem. Okay. Suppose even the change of the water flow, okay, may change the water temperature, okay, or the water flow may be in the flow that helping, or it is maybe a stimulus to fish or any aquatic organism for the reproduction, okay, or for the survival. So that may change or put a stress on particular organism. So it is not only on the animals, it is maybe on the vegetation also. Okay. So it is important to stop this activity or the anthropogenic activity. Furthermore, pollution of fresh water and marine water sources due to sewage and industrial discharge, that is dumping of waste, mining, oil spills, etc., are of aquatic organisms to a very harmful extent. Okay. Even that the flora or fauna which is present on the island, that is maybe this is a, if island is a isolated area, we know that is surrounded by, all sides are surrounded by sea. Okay. Nowadays this region is also facing or the sea in the seriously affected by human activities. Okay. So this may already led to an extinction of many island species, that is plants and animals. For example, that is the dodo in Madagascar. Okay, it is a well known example. So the habitat loss also result from introduction of species from one area to another by human. Okay, that is called as the invasion, that we are going to see in the next issue. Okay. But if for the for the human development or for the socio economical development, humans are dependent on the different resources. Maybe these are the plant forest resources, land, water, or any other. But when we are over exploiting or when we start damaging that, indirectly or directly, we are responsible for the that extinction of the species, okay, or we are causing threat to the biodiversity. So another issue is which is related to habitat loss is habitat fragmentation, in which a habitat that was once continuous is split up into smaller patches. Okay. So that means habitat destruction is the large area is demolished. Okay. And even that from that habitat, if the small area is fragmented, okay, and the impact of the deforestation or the threat or the any anthropogenic causes, you can observe on that area. Okay. So that is called as a habitat fragmentation, that is a small part of the habitat is impacted. So construction of roads and highways, railway lines, clearing of forest patches for construction, plantation, grazing lead to forest area getting fragmented. Okay. So these are the causes for the habitat fragmentation. So construction of roads and railways, that is small part is from the large area of the biodiversity is we can see It is shows the impact of the biodiversity loss. Okay, railway lines clearing the forest patches for construction, that is for maybe for mining. Okay, plantation, that is human settlement, and grazing, that is overgrazing, also leads to a habitat fragmentation. So this can lead to restriction movement of animal between forest patches for food and isolation of individual and population from each other, that can prevent mating. If you, as we know, the organism is living in habitat. Okay, but outside the habitat, the area in which animal can move freely, okay, to fulfill its need. Okay, maybe it is for the protection, okay, maybe in search of food, or maybe in search of meat. Okay, so animal can move in its territory. So if there is a habitat destruction, of course the habitat is not there, along with that the territory which is set by an animal will be not there. Okay, so that can lead to a restriction movement of animals. Okay, so may that the main purpose to for the movement is for the mating, or in search of partner. Okay, so that may show a impact on population of the organism or an animal. Thus the survival and reproduction of the species in fragmented habitats is significantly impacted. Okay, as we know, the animal can live only, or the survive in habitat. Okay, and for the movement in the territory or in a defined area of any ecosystem, maybe for example forest. Okay, that area also getting impacted because of the that habitat loss or habitat fragmentation. Okay, so the two factors, that is survival and reproduction, okay, are impacted because of the habitat loss. So this is the picture where you can observe the result of habitat loss. Okay, so the first picture is habitat loss due to deforestation. As you can observe, on the land there is no vegetation. So of course the large area is the you can observe the large area there is no vegetation. Okay, that means a great habitat loss of the forest ecosystem or the organisms. Next one is habitat alteration due to dam construction. Okay, as we know, the large area is impacted. The third one is habitat degradation and loss due to forest fire. So this is maybe a natural thing, okay, or the natural cause, but indirectly the human beings are responsible for this thing, that is a forest fires. And the last one is habitat fragmentation due to road construction. That means small area is impacted from the habitat, that is a habitat fragmentation. Now one more another thing, or the habitat destruction which generally observe at the shoreline. Okay, that is a mangrove forest destruction. Okay. As we know, the mangroves are important to prevent the flood. Okay. Along with that, it is a great source of organic matter. That means the region where they are growing, it is rich in organic matter. So the food resources are available for the birds and many species which are living at the seashore line. But nowadays for the prawn culture, that mangrove deforestation is done, okay, or it is practices mainly where the seashore or the coastline is there. So the large amount of or in the impact, okay, which is already seen near the Bengal, near the Bengal, okay, that is coastal Bangladesh, sorry, not Bengal, Bangladesh. So 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 mangrove, the prawn culture is done nearer to the that mangrove region, and the shrimp farming is done in that particular area, because that system or the environment is supporting for the growth of shrimps, okay, because it is not a, it is a stay, not very stagnant water, but still the flow of water is supporting the growth of shrimps. Along with that, the organic matter or the natural food, it is present in the mangrove region. So shrimp farming in coastal Bangladesh has devastating effects of mangrove forest. So mangroves are the most carbon rich forest in the tropics, that is a blue carbon, that means carbon in coastal and marine ecosystem. So blue carbon emission from mangrove deforestation due to shrimp cultivation are accumulating, okay, because the cycle which is, that is the maybe leaves or litter and the twins or any dead organism, it is decomposed by decomposer or other organisms, okay, and that is providing or that is converting the complex organic compounds into simpler one that can be utilized by plants, and again by growing plants can form a litter or the twig which can be fall on the ground, and that is a food for decomposers. So that is a closed cycle of nutrients can be break down because of the deforestation, okay, or the devastation of the mangrove forest, or even for the normal that the land forest. So this is a main issue, or we can say this is the reason for the higher carbon emission, okay. So what you can do, okay, so translocation of shrimp culture to open water, okay, so to prevent that can be done, that shrimp culture can be transferred into a normal water. Now the case study which is usually that environmentalist study, that is a project tiger, okay. So the project tiger was launched by government of India with the support of WWF, that is wildlife organization that's in that international, in the 1973, okay, and first was launched in that in India, okay, and the main aim that protecting key species and all its habitat, okay. So what is a key species? That is a species which is important for the ecosystem, okay. That means if we remove that species, then show a great impact on the lower species. For example, tiger, lion, eagle, or even in the aquatic ecosystem, maybe human is a top consumer or large fish, okay. If we remove them, or that top consumers are eliminated from the ecosystem, for shorter period of time the lower organism or the lower trophic level organism can survive. But if you observe keenly, the topmost consumer is giving protection, that is the lower trophic levels are under control of the topmost consumers. As we know, the tiger, lion, or the any other, or the topmost consumer, the territory or there is a hold on that ecosystem, okay. If the species are eliminated or the species are not there, then there may be a attack by some invasive species or the animals which are not present in that particular ecosystem, or the biodiversity. So the alien species or the invasive species may attack different species of, or the species of the ecosystem which are present at the different trophic level, and that may disrupt the balance of the ecosystem. So it is important to have a key species or the topmost consumer. Remember, the topmost consumer is not the key species, okay, but most of the time the topmost consumers are the key species, but it is not always, okay. So that the tiger project was launched by government India and with the support of WWF, that is a World Wildlife Fund, okay, and that is an international project and run in 1973. So it was the first initiative was taken by the government to protect the key species and protection of its habitat. So this project tiger, okay, was initiated in 9 tiger reserves in different ecosystem of the country, okay. So in 2001 or by 2001 the number of tiger reserve increased by 27, okay, almost the triple. So the however the project tiger was successfully damaged by a new threat, that was that is a poaching, okay, that we are going to see. But there should be a strict action, the strict action should be taken for the conservation of tigers, okay, because these are topmost consumers and the key factor which is maintaining the balance of the ecosystem, okay. Now then the one of the important thing is the tiger task force, okay, which is that is in 2005 the Prime Minister of India took a direct action to protect tigers by setting up a tiger task force, okay, that is for the protection. And thus the tiger task force presents an action agenda to manage tiger conservation, the India way, or the way there where forests are not only considered as a the wilderness or the home for not only for animal but also home for the people of the people, okay. So that was a project tiger. And the next issue which we are which is a main threat to biodiversity is poaching, okay, means to kill any organism or sorry animal or wild animal for the personal interest. So elephant tusk, you can observe this kind of stuff, it is collected during the poaching. So poaching, the illegal hunting or capture of wildlife for trade and commercial activities has been on the side for the last many decades, okay. So illegal trade of wildlife products by killing prohibited endangered animal, that is poaching, is another threat to wildlife, okay. So poaching has been a significant cause of extinction of hundreds of plant and animal species and many more becoming endangered. So it is not only for animals but the poaching for plants can be observed. Although poaching is illegal, the huge demands for body parts of specific animal or need of animal for pet trade and even as a source of food has led to growth of this illegal activity, okay. So globally if you observe, or the data says that the illegal wildlife trade is estimated to be between $7 billion, okay. So elephants are killed for ivory, leopards for their skin or used in a medicine regularly since they used as the hunted for meat. Polar bears are killed for the indigenous community as a source of food, okay, or rare timber is targeted for hardwood furniture or even fur, horns, okay, or the live specimen can be collected, okay, for the illegal trade. So species population, especially large charismatic mammal species, which are the one that are most often haunted. Okay, so this is, or you can see the examples. Okay, where this is the rhino, or the, it is a horn of rhino. Okay, and this is the, mainly the elephants are killed for this tusk. Okay, and the skin of tiger, okay, and antlers are uh, used for the illegal trading. Okay, now what are the impacts? So this is more mainly practices in countries like Taiwan, Hong Kong, Japan. Okay, so this poaching or the trading of such, not poaching, the trading of wildlife product is highly profit market making for the poachers who just hunt the prohibited wildlife and smuggle it to other countries mediated through mafia. Okay, so in Japan, okay, the leopard fur coat is sold for almost $1 lakh. Okay, and that may, the cost of elephant tusk can go up to $100 per kg. Okay, so that is a high, very high price. Okay. So if you found a rare plant, fish or bird, then please make sure that you are not going for the endangered species or wild caught species. Okay, so doing so will help in checking for the decline of this species. Okay, also do not purchase fur coat, purse or bag items made from crocodile skin or python skin. Okay, so this is from your side, that how you can protect or preserve biodiversity by doing so, because if you can purchase this, then indirectly you are responsible for this, the loss of the loss of biodiversity. Okay, so what are the impacts of poaching on the biodiversity? As mentioned earlier, poaching has profound impact on biodiversity. This includes loss of population, that is a number of mammals, reptiles and bird species are already in threatened categories, that is IUCN category, that is critically endangered and vulnerable species. Okay, so and poaching is a constant threat that decreases numbers rapidly. Okay, so as you know, IUCN, it is the International Union for Conservation of Nature. Okay, so it was established in 1948. Okay, for the that organization, okay, or the union is publishing list for animal who are endangered, become extinct, critically endangered, vulnerable, so that it is, we know that number of animal, it is number of animal, and it is a alarming situation or the thing that we should think about the biodiversity conservation. In combination with the threat of habitat loss and human wildlife conflicts, many of these populations can become locally extinct. Thus, animal population in wild face the threats of possible extinct. Okay. So, what is the impact on food chain? Since the poaching results in a decrease in the population size of the species, alters the delicate balance of the food chain in the ecosystem. Okay, as we know, if the poaching is done or the illegal trade, for that killing is or the hunting is done, that human being kill any particular species in the ecosystem. Okay, and the large number of population, okay, it is not there, then of course it is an imbalance for the food chain, okay, because as we know, the one trophic level, or the every animal is dependent on the other for the food, okay. Many of the species which are killed are apex predator, an animal at the top of the food chain which has no natural predator or keystone species, due to which there is a drastic change in the number of organisms within and outside protected areas, and as the biodiversity declines, it it will ultimately affect the proper functioning of the ecosystem, okay. So another one is increasing causes of zoonotic diseases. So what are the zoonotic diseases? Zoonotic diseases or zoonosis are the diseases caused by microorganisms that are passed between animals and people. That means the pathogens or the microbes, okay, which are transferred from the animals to human beings, and that are causing diseases. These are called as a zoonotic diseases, okay. So these diseases originate in animal and then shift to humans. Now how it is the poaching is responsible for the zoonotic diseases, that human beings for illegal trading or collecting valuable products from the animal, there is a contact between human and animal, okay. Along with that, any organism or if any animal bites to any human being, okay, of course there is a transfer of microbes from animal to man or the human beings, okay. And even some diseases can be spread by even in the by contact, okay. So the diseases originate in animals and then shift to humans. So zoonotic diseases can be caused by virus, bacteria, parasites, fungi, and occur throughout the world, okay. This may cause mild or severe illness or even death in some cases. So once in a human, the diseases may first become a local outbreak, then subsequently become endemic, that is diseases that affect a large number of people within a community, population or region, and in some cases it can become a pandemic, that is disease spread over the large area, okay, or in multiple countries, or we can say across the globe, okay, that infects higher population of proportion of the world's population. So recent incidences of SARS, okay, then Ebola fever, swine flu, and the most famous is COVID-19 are examples of zoonotic diseases, okay. So scientists believe the major reason for increase in incidence of zoonotic diseases is the increasing invasion of animal habitat by people, poaching activities, and the trade of animal, all of which result in more interaction between humans and animals, okay. The another impact which you can observe is a decline in wildlife tourism. So areas that are famous for wildlife tourism face a negative publicity due to poaching, as the chances of encountering a charismatic animal in these areas decreases, okay. So the tourists also tourists also facing security issue and other restrictions. So thus there is a decrease in the tourism based income and job opportunities for local people, okay. So because of this poaching activities or the illegal trading activities, the some portion is may be restricted by the government, that the human activities or the interference is not be tolerated in a particular area, okay. So that or maybe there is a strict security, for that also many tourists try to avoid that area, okay, for the traveling purpose, and that may hamper on the tourism business. Okay, so indirectly the local economy. Okay, the another issue or the threat to biodiversity is human wildlife conflict. Okay, so as we discuss or we have discussed about the need of preserve and protect our wildlife, sometimes we can come across a conflict situation when wildlife starts causing immense damage and danger to man, and under such condition it becomes very difficult for the forest department to pacify the affected villages and gain local support for wildlife conservation. Okay, so there are some instances uh, which you can observe, okay, or happen, that man animal conflict keep coming in a limelight for several states in our country. Okay, so the famous examples or the man wildlife conflict was observed in Sambalpur, that is Odisha. There's 195 humans were killed in the 5 years within 5 years by elephant. Okay, so in relation uh, or the in so because the elephants are not living continuously in the forest. Okay, so as the season changes they may come to a grassland for ecosystem. So that is, change in the habitat is a cause of issue, or it is an issue for the human wildlife conflict. Okay, so another one is that in June 2004 two men were killed by a leopard in Powai, that is in the Mumbai, and total 14 persons were killed during 19 attacks. Okay, so now that the leopard is in the national park, that is Sanjeev Gandhi National Park, and in 2004, okay, the man-eating tiger was reported to kill 16 Nepalese people, and one 4-year-old child inside the, that is, got damaged. Okay, so we'll see the man wildlife conflict. So maybe because of damage of the property, or maybe human are interested on the land, okay, or the habitat of animal. So these two are causes of human wildlife conflict. Another one is people may resist for conservation. That means the damage is in a such a extent that people are not ready to keep that animal in that habitat. Okay, so there is an indirect impact or the reason for the human wildlife conflict. So human wildlife conflict refers to an interaction between uh, man and the human, which results in a negative impact on people, animal, resources and habitat. Okay, so conflict is one of the main threats affecting not just the survival of many life and livelihood, but also of local human population. Okay, so human wildlife conflict takes place when whenever increasing human population encroach and invade established wildlife area, creating competition for space and resources. Okay, so the human and animal, all both are living organism, okay, on the earth. The the region has certain carrying capacity. That means, for example, in one classroom 50 students can accommodate or can sit comfortably. Likewise, in a particular, suppose, forest ecosystem, the n number of individuals can, or the organisms, animals can live, okay, and survive. If the other species are trying to invade, okay, or try to encroach in that capacity, okay, like in the classroom 50 students can sit comfortably, and if the more 25 students are added, or are sitting in that classroom, of course the space will not be enough for the all students. Okay, so that means number is above the carrying capacity of the classroom, and there will be a competition for space between students. Okay, same like if you observe the another ecosystem, sorry, if you observe the forest ecosystem or even the aquatic ecosystem, humans are encroaching and trying to invade the wildlife habitat. Okay, same, there will be a competition between human and wildlife for the space and resources, as the wildlife is or animals are dependent on the natural resources, okay, which are available in their habitat. And human beings are also using the same resources. Therefore, there will be a competition between human and wildlife for space, for another resources. Okay, and that is a result, or that result of this activity is human wildlife conflict. Okay, so human wildlife conflict is a greater, sorry, it is a global issue occurring in urban as well as rural landscapes, leading to injury to human and wild animals, loss of livestock and crops, loss of property, and at times loss of lives. Okay. So in India, leopards, snow leopards, tigers, lions, elephants, snakes are quite common. The animals, many of which are already threatened or endangered, often killed in retaliation or to prevent future conflicts. Okay. So if wild animal, it is not in a control of human being, or it is threat to life of human being, in that cases the people, the choice of the people is kill that animal. Okay, so endangered are often killed in retaliation or to prevent future conflicts. Okay. That is endangered species. So some are the general reasons or the causes of man wildlife conflict. So what are the root causes? First is the reduction in the size of habitat, or we can say the deforestation. Okay, so it is for maybe the urbanization, cultivation, mining activities, or for developmental projects where the humans are encroaching towards forest, that is a habitat, the wildlife habitat. Okay, then easy availability and abundance of the prey and fodder in human inhabited areas, especially those village which are proximity to protected areas. Okay, so if wildlife animals or the wild animals are getting availability or easily the food resources near the habitat area, okay, then animals may come or attack on different animals. Okay, fragmentation of habitat activities, that is movement of wild animal between the fragmented patches, often lead to human encounters. Okay, the lack of proper awareness among local communities, that is people in general, regarding response to wildlife animal encounters, the delay or lack of proper compensation, loss of property, crops, livestock or life, due to which people try to tackle the problem themselves. Okay, that is if there is government is not showing interest, okay, or if there is a delay to implement any policy, okay, or scheme, in that case people are not ready to uh, rely on the government. So in that case they take action by themselves. Okay, then along with the man eating tendency, that uh, wild animals tendency to attack man. Okay, so even where there is a scarcity of food, okay, or lack of corridors. So corridors is the area where animal can move, okay, or which is joining two different patches or the region within the ecosystem. Okay. So earlier there used to be a wildlife corridors through which wild animals used to migrate seasonally in groups to other area. Okay. So due to the development of human settlement in these corridors, the path of wildlife has been disrupted and the animals attacked the settlement. Okay. So mitigation strategies for managing human specific but some important measures: protected areas, effective land use animals, improving community education, timely dispensation of compensation of affected people. Okay. All these are causes of increasing the wildlife conflict, man and wildlife conflict. Now the another case study which is environmentalists do, it is nearer to the Karnataka, that is Kokker Vellore. So this is a case of coexistence. That means there should not be always a human wildlife conflict, but the species or the picture which you can see, it is a pelican bird. Okay, it is an endangered species, and this species comes or they breed in a large number at a Kokker Vellore. Okay, so that is one of the 10 breeding sites in India. Okay, so so that is, it is Kokker Vellore is a village in the Karnataka, which is located in the South India. Okay, so in December every year, hundreds of spot billed pelican, billed is a beak. Okay, or Pentas storks, ibis. Okay, these birds migrate to this area and to establish breeding colonies. Okay, so local people, what they do, they protect these birds. Okay, so actually they do believe as a these birds as a good luck. Okay, that is, if these birds are coming or they do visit in that area, so there will be a good rain for the crops in that area. So they are worshipping these birds. Okay, so that because the droppings of this fish eating birds, okay, is rich in or are rich in nitrates. Okay, so this may be used as a manure and good for the soil quality. Okay, so owners of the trees inhabited by these birds dig deep pits under the trees and into which guano falls. That means the material falls, and silt from nearby lakes and ponds are mixed into this guano, which is used in their field and sold as a fertilizer because it is already rich in the nitrate. Okay, and then now in that village they have planted trees around their homes to encourage nesting. Okay, so this is how human and wildlife can live harmonious life. Okay, so how to tackle with human or the man wildlife conflict? First is habitat restoration, that we can build habitat or even we can restrict that area of habitat. So habitat restoration is not an easy thing, that if we plant plants or any vegetation, then easily species can come. Okay, but we can try that. Organizing awareness programs. Okay, so we have to aware people, especially students, okay, for this issue and the habitat loss. Do not disturb or irritate wildlife animals. Role of government in view of growing man animal conflict cases. Okay, so government should take an initiative or the strict initiative for the man wildlife conflict cases. Okay, the law enforcement, okay, there should be a proper law. Nowadays the people are more aware and the government is taking initiative for the conservation of species which are maybe endangered or becoming extinct. Okay. A care must be taken when away from home leopards are often. Okay, and avoid making fruit plantation near forest because this is a mere attraction for the wildlife animals. Okay, so these are the three issues, okay, of or the three threats of the uh, biodiversity.